It is absolutely no surprise to anyone that we're in a trust recession right now. And if you're a coach, consultant, or some sort of a higher ticket offer owner, the question becomes, how do I continue to build up trust with my audience so that we can continue to scale up our high ticket offers? That's what we're going to talk about today. Plenty more coming for you. So let's go ahead and dive on in. All right, everybody. So just to make sure that we're on the same page as we head into this conversation, we all have to understand that right now, people are still paying and investing into higher ticket offers, services, products, etc. That's not an issue right now. The issue that most people are up against is that the market as a whole, like Americans as a whole, really the world as a whole, is getting more and more skeptical about everything. We don't know what to believe, whether something is true or something is false, whether something is real or something was made from AI. The skepticism is at an all-time high, and trust, inversely, is at an all-time low, which means that when you are making a claim to your audience, saying that you could help them in a certain way, shape, or form, they don't know whether they can trust you or not, and by default, they need to protect themselves, so by default, they're going to say, I can't really trust this person until they prove to me otherwise. That's what a trust recession is, okay? People have access to anything they need through AI. We have to understand that if that is the case, they're going to be able to sniff out whether you're the real deal pretty quickly, okay? Half the time, people aren't even buying higher ticket services and offers because they need the information. Half the time, they can already go get the information directly on ChatGPT or some sort of other, AI platform, learning language model. The reason why most of these high ticket offers are still being purchased today is one of two reasons. Number one, because there's the financial component, that really the financial commitment. When people pay quite a bit more money for something, they pay quite a bit more attention to it. So if I am offered a free car versus I have to go pay for that exact same car, I'm gonna take way better care of that paid car, the car that I have to personally pay for. I'm gonna take better care of it. It's not because I don't care about the free one. It's just quite literally, I won't care as much if it gets dinged up. I won't care as much, if it's dirty or if there's a scratch on it. I just don't care as much because I didn't pay for it, so I'm no worse off if I don't take good care of it, right? So that's number one, is why people are paying for higher ticket services, because they really want these results. And they know that if they don't pay for something, they're really not likely to pay more attention to it. They're not likely to see the breakthrough on the other side. So financial commitment is one component, but the other component is simply having the accountability, which, yes, obviously financial helps. However, simply having a mentor, someone to kind of speak into your situation and kind of, they can see the forest for the trees. They can see those nuanced situations that the customer is dealing with. And they can say, hey, if you actually just change X, Y, and Z with a part of this plan or a part of this strategy, you'll be good to go. And they go make that one implementation and boom, they're good to go. See, most of the information that's out there today, people are not getting that sort of feedback loop. They might get a preset set of instructions from AI, but they're not getting that sort of a feedback loop from a coach, consultant, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so that's kind of the state of the market that we're in. So plenty of people are still buying high ticket. The question becomes, how do you take a stranger that really is your ideal customer, and how do you properly and efficiently build up a know, like, and trust factor with them before they're ready to hear that high ticket offer? Okay, so that's what we're up against. And really what this conversation is going to come down to is really understanding sales processes. So if you understand that most service providers, most, coaches, consultants, et cetera, experts of any way, shape, or form, most people start their sales process by having warm leads and referrals come to them and say, hey, I'm interested in, working with you, or I'm interested to see if you could help me out with XYZ situation. And you, as the service provider, says, yeah, no problem at all. Let's jump on a Zoom call, find a time that works on your calendar, book on my Calendly, and let's jump on a Zoom. And so you're having some sort of a consult, a call with them, or maybe it's an in-person coffee meeting or something. You're having that call, and then in that meeting, you're developing trust with them. You're seeing a little bit more about what they really need, what they don't need, et cetera. So really seeing if you could help them. And if you can actually help them, then you typically give them an offer. And you make, a certain percentage of those will turn into a sale for you. So that's really the general sales process that most newbies take, when they're first starting off from zero, and really that could even take you to a couple $100,000 a year, potentially even more, right? And so you're going from awareness, you're having to figure out how do new people come into your ecosystem, how do you gain their trust, and then you have to give them an offer. That's like the three components: is awareness, trust, and offer. Okay. Then when you want to actually scale past, maybe $100,000 a year or a few $100,000 a year, you're like, well, this is working pretty well for me. So most people say, well, the most unpredictable part of that sales process right there is that you're relying on word of mouth and referrals to come into your ecosystem. It's really unpredictable to have new people be aware of you. So that's what they're solving for on step one, is like, hey, how do we make step one more predictable? And oftentimes people will go run ads, usually Facebook ads, and say, hey, let's run this ad to strangers and hope that strangers will want to book that Zoom call with us now. So, in modern day times, this is called a call booking funnel. These are very, very popular, especially like 2022, 2023. There's a lot of people still trying to force these right now. They still work to a degree, but man, are they inefficient right now. See, what's happening is that when you're having strangers get this ad in front of them that's maybe 60 seconds long, maybe up to 2 minutes long, and the ad is telling them a little bit more about what you do and how you could maybe help them, and then it's prompting this stranger to book a call, the stranger, can we just call what it is? Like, they don't care about you yet. They do not care to go jump on a Zoom call with you or maybe your commission-hungry sales rep to then go be hopefully one call closed into like a $5,000 to a $15,000 package, maybe even a $30,000 package. No one wants that. That's not a fun process for most of these people. They're not scrolling through Facebook hoping to go pay someone $15,000 on the first call they ever have with you because they're too skeptical. Their trust is too low. And so what's happening, if you do that sales process, you probably understand right now, if you're relying on ads to get these people to book calls, you're paying more and more and more to have your target customers actually book that call. So your cost per call is going through the roof. Okay. And then even from there, the people that book calls, half the people don't even show up. Many people right now are seeing around a 50% show rate on the better end for a lot of call booking funnels right now, from cold traffic, to booking these calls. And then of the people that jump on these calls, they're so skeptical that you're not one call closing these people very easily. Even with great sales teams, oftentimes it's taking 2 calls or more, and you really have to have a lot of back-end selling systems to even get them to want or be even willing to buy. So that's becoming very inefficient for people, and it's not an accelerated process to build trust. So then the next evolution that a lot of people will try to go towards is webinars. So webinars, people will run ads to then get, a lot of these strangers to sign up to attend this webinar. I think most people know webinars are anywhere from 45 minutes to 90 minutes long on average. Sometimes it go 2 or 3 hours long, but usually these things are just sales pitches in disguise. They're very fluffy in nature. There's not much value truly being taught at all. And you're trying to force this trust building within a very short amount of time so that someone would be willing to, book a call with you or buy your offer, depending on if you're sending them straight to a checkout page or sending them to a call. And what happens on the webinars is that strangers will actually sign up at a much better rate for these webinars. So that part still works pretty well right now. And that does solve for the call booking funnel aspect, so your cost per registrant is way lower now, and you get way more people in the door. The issue with the webinars is that strangers, when they're not paying money and they don't know and they don't yet know, like, or trust you, have literally no incentive to jump on your actual webinar, because they also understand that webinars are sales pitches in disguise and there's very little to no value offered. And so what will happen is that when you're running ads to these webinars, you might have 100 people sign up for your webinar, but realistically only 10 to 20% of people are going to show up. I was just on a call, just on a consulting call actually last week with the gentleman who he was doing it was kind of a free webinar model, and he was seeing about 15% of people were showing up for his free webinars. That is very normal. So, you're paying for 100 people to sign up, but only 15 of those 100 are actually going to show up. And so theoretically speaking, hey, your webinar might actually build quite a bit more trust with these people than a call booking funnel would before they're, offered to book a call with you. But now, it's just so inefficient because you're only able to get 15% of the people to even hear about what it is that you're doing and how you can help them. And it's still kind of fluffy in nature. So obviously, the webinars are not necessarily the most efficient process in the world, but we do understand the importance of having to put some sort of a trust building mechanism in your sales process before people are willing to hear those offers, right? So that brings us to what is working right now really, really well, just to be clear, is paid virtual events. You also might know of these as being called paid challenges or paid boot camps. These are working very well. Let's first just talk about what they are. And then we can also talk about kind of why they are working so well and why they're filling in the gaps of some of those other models that people have been trying to use. The first core component that makes these unique is that they are paid attendance. Okay, we're not talking free challenges, free events, free webinars, free boot camps. These are paid. Why are they paid though? It's very easy and simple to understand. What we pay for as humans, we pay more attention to. It's the same reason why you charge for your service. It's because you know that people will actually take it way more seriously. Also, we're not in here to run nonprofits, all right? We want to make profit. Now, the paid challenges, the paid boot camps, etc., they're actually a loss leader model. So if you're running ads, just like you would be for a call booking funnel or a webinar, you're not making money. You're not making profit the very second someone signs up. Technically speaking, when they're buying a ticket, yes, you are transacting money, but that does not mean you are making profit. So you might pay, a little bit more in ad spend than what the ticket costs or what the person is paying you for the ticket. Okay, so you might lose a little bit of money technically when people are signing up. But think about it like this. On the old model, for free, you might get 10 to 20% of people to even show up for your event. On this model, we usually see somewhere between 50 upwards of 75% of people will actually show up. Even if we're just talking a low-end 50% show rate compared to 15% show rate, on the free, that's 3 times more people that will be hearing your event, hearing your boot camp. They'll be attending it. They'll be engaged. They'll actually be able to hear about what it is that you're doing, how you can help them, and hear what your back-end offer is. It's already 3 times more efficient from that point of view, okay? There's just way less people that are going to fall through the cracks now. Then, on top of that, on the paid model, okay, when they are buying a ticket, not only do you have a higher show rate, but you're changing the relationship. The very moment they buy for that ticket, you are setting the tone, you're setting the frame that you charge for your expertise. You charge for the wisdom and the value that you give to people, okay? And so now when someone is being presented a higher end offer to work with you later on, after you actually do deliver value for a few days in a row, didn't feel like a bait and switch because it's not like hey, you're going to have this free sample and now you got to pay us this big amount. It's like, hey, you already paid, you already understand we charge for what we do. And so you paid for this experience. Now you're going to have to pay more for this way bigger experience. It's actually really natural because you're not trying to take a freebie seeking lead or that tire kicker window shopper and turn them into a higher ticket customer. You're actually simply just taking an existing customer and giving them a new offer to work with you in a greater capacity. It's a much more natural process. And so what I'm trying to say is that you'll likely have a higher conversion rate from the total attendees that you have live to the people that end up paying you for your back-end offer. You're probably going to have a higher conversion rate even if you don't do anything different with the way that you sell, the way that you're pitching, okay? So that's why we do paid events. So that's number 1. Number 2 is that these are virtual attendance. These are virtual events. So you do not have to travel, across the country to this event. You don't have to ask your customers to travel across the country to attend this event. These are virtual. So you can attend it, if you're an attendee, you can attend it from the comfort of your living room or your office or your bedroom or whatever. It doesn't matter. Okay? And so the reason why we do that, we love in-person events, but there are a few just bottlenecks with them. In-person events in general, I think the biggest bottleneck is that they're so expensive to host. And so, if you're looking to spend a good amount, multi-5 or even 6 figures to host an event, great. You could do a great in-person event and make it a killer experience. And there's a lot to be said for the power of an in-person room. However, just for you to understand kind of economics here, on a low-end budget event, if you're going to have people come on into even a really nice Airbnb, or maybe you get a conference room in a mediocre hotel, it's going to cost you usually a few $1,000s a day. Normally, we actually were just at an in-person event not too long ago where I think there were only 50 people in the room, and the organizer had spent between travel, room blocks, the AV, stage setup, etc. I think he spent around 40 grand. And so it's not that it's not that you can't do it. It's just that there's a much higher barrier to entry in that, and there's a financial risk. And so if you don't know, how well you're going to convert, you could very quickly lose a lot of money on that. And then especially as that scales up, like we had a client not too long ago. She did an event for, I think there were about 400 people that attended in person, and she spent like 400 grand hosting that event. In-person events, if done well, are very expensive. So that's honestly one of the big reasons why we don't like to have everyone go do in-person events. Just not everyone is in a financial state where they can just go fork over the money, and you have to prepay for all that, to be clear. So not everyone's in the position where they could just go prepay for a really, really big in-person event. Secondly, it's way harder to sell tickets for in-person events, okay? If you are selling to someone that is remotely busy, which you probably are, they have a schedule. They have things on their schedule that they have to do. If they're a parent, they now have to, if you're having them travel in, they have to figure out, hey, who's going to watch my kids? Or, now I'm going to have to take off time away from the business, or I'm going to have to take off time from work, or now I'm going to have to, take away time from my spouse. Like there's so many things that you're asking them to do when you have them go travel. That's just their schedule. That's not even including airfare, travel costs, Ubers, hotel parking, hotel itself, food, etc. Like there's just so many costs. There's such a barrier to entry to have people attend your your in-person event. So that's another reason why we like to do virtual, because someone might not have the evening available. And so that one reason, even if your event might be during the daytime, they can no longer go to your event if they had something planned already that night. Okay. So that's why virtual is so much better, because you're going to have so many more people to say, oh, I can actually attend that. Okay. So that's another reason. Now, third component that makes these events unique, okay, this model more unique and so efficient, really, is that they are not all day long events. These are not full day events. These are not 7 to 8 hour events. You do not have the time as a busy entrepreneur to go spend 8 hours a day for multiple days in a row with your audience. Okay, that is a really big lift, and that's not something that would be scalable or repeatable for you to continue to do all the time. Okay, nor does your target customer want or even have the time to spend 8 hours with you for multiple days in a row. Okay, no one has the time for that. And even if they did, as you know, overall bandwidth and your attention will go just right down the tubes within a couple hours. People's attention span is so small, the likelihood they actually stay engaged with you for 8 hours in a row, especially virtually, slim to none. So what these are structured as, these are usually only 1 or 2 hours a day. Very, very small bite-sized chunks of content where you're going live with them for a few days in a row. And these are not something where you have to go get multiple speakers to come on in, because the more speakers you have, the less time you as the authority figure are spending with your audience, which now means that any other speaker that's speaking on your behalf is now a liability for you, because that's time that you otherwise could have been spending with that audience to build up know, like, and trust factor with them. That's the only reason why you're doing this, is to show them you can help them by actually helping them and spend real time with them to develop that relationship, develop that know, like, and trust. So these are not multi-speaker summits. These are you going live as the authority figure for literally, it could be 2 days, 3 days, or 5 days in a row. And so the fourth point that makes these unique is that these are multi-day. Okay, I've already alluded to this so far in this video, but why is it important to do multi-day? We're talking 2 day, 3 day, maybe even 5 days. Why is that important? Well, if you're going to go live for 1 hour a day and you spend, let's say 3 hours over the course of 3 days with them, so 3 total hours of your time, a common question or a common thought is saying, well, why would I not just do a 3-hour session in one day and get it all over with? Fair point. Issue is that yes, it's 3 hours for you, but it's now only 3 hours for your audience, as compared to if you spent 3 days with them. Number one, in general, they actually feel like you're spending more time with them, which you're not. You're only spending 1 hour per day. But think about it like this. You go live and you deliver just a massive, impactful, different train of thought or a different way of thinking for them on day one. You just give them some really amazing golden nuggets on day one. you did that at 12 p.m. Central Time, and you're out of here by 1 p.m. Central Time. You continue working the rest of the day, and then you go to happy hour with your spouse later, or you go out to dinner later with your with some of your friends. You could go do that, and you're unbothered. However, they are no longer going back to their schedule and not thinking about you again. They are sitting here still thinking about those golden nuggets you gave them on the first few minutes of day one, and they're thinking about those the rest of day one and all the way into day two. They are literally, and I've literally seen it, sometimes they are losing sleep over the way of which you're challenging their thought process just simply in day one. And so if that's happening, and it's happening every single day, yeah, once again, 1 hour a day for 3 days for you. However, for them, it feels like they're actually spending 72 hours with you. Every waking moment, they're replaying things that you've told them. They're like, wait, but that could change everything for me. That could totally change the way I operate in my health. That could totally change my marriage. Like, man, what if this person can help me out with X, Y, and Z? Yesterday was so powerful. I can't wait for tomorrow now. And so like they're selling themselves on you. And so then when you give your offer towards the end of your event, well, it doesn't matter once again if it's 2-day, 3-day, 5-day. We've got processes to help you figure out all those. It doesn't really matter on that part. But when you give your offer, it does not feel like this is a rush decision, because they didn't just meet you 2 hours ago. They didn't feel like they just heard you start speaking 3 hours ago. Right now, for them, it feels as if they've spent the last 3 days with you. So yeah, of course they're going to do this. They feel like they've literally, been replaying you in their head for the last 72 hours. So of course this isn't a rush decision. They've been thinking about this for 3 full days. Of course it's a natural progression for them to want to continue working with you. So that's, once again, why you're just going to have a higher conversion rate on these as well, because you're actually building know, like, and trust factor, and you're not trying to rush anything. Now, you are rushing it in the sake of there's a clearly defined process for when they come into the funnel and when the offer is given. So it's a much more structured, much more predictable way of converting these low ticket sales or these low ticket sales into high ticket customers. But yeah, that's kind of how that works. Just to be very clear, I'm not the only one out here that's saying that these things are working very, very well. Okay, pay attention to what other people are doing, especially that are more industry leaders. So I was actually with Amy Porterfield earlier in, it was technically 2025. It was May, I think, of 2025. And she was saying that paid virtual, I think she used the term boot camps, but really, once again, they're all interchangeable. She was saying that they're the absolute best marketing strategy in all of 2025 for coaches. Okay, the reason she's saying that is because they're working so well. And seriously, once again, just look at other industry leaders. She's using them, and she's obviously a thought leader on direct response marketing, or just more so marketing in general for coaches. Jenna Kutcher was in the process of building one out. You have Myron Golden, who he does paid challenges. You have, Russell Brunson, Dan Henry. All of these industry leaders are doing them. And so the question is, why wouldn't you? There's a concept called first mover's advantage. And I'm sure you've heard of this before, but for those of you who maybe are unfamiliar with it, first mover's advantage states that the person to take the first action always has the most to gain. Technically speaking, they also have the most to lose, right? Like they're kind of the guinea pig. However, when they take action and if it works, they have the most to gain. So they're going to continue to be able to, reap the reward of that. And then the second person has the second most to gain, and so on and so on and so on. And if you want to see a real life example of this play out, pay attention to industry trends over time. If you were the first person in your space to ever be able to run a Google ad, wouldn't you just kill for that opportunity? Wouldn't you just love the opportunity to be the first person in your industry to ever be running an ad on Facebook? Man, think about how much you'd have to gain in that case, because the CPMs would be low, you'd have no competition. It's easier and easier and easier to stand out in that case, okay? So then if we think about another example, maybe honestly even webinars. Like when webinars first started, it's not like webinars, honestly, even this model, this paid event model, okay? It's not like these are brand new concepts. But as more and more and more people start to utilize a concept, as more and more people start to jump on a bandwagon, it becomes less and less and less efficient. See, marketers, I've heard a quote that good marketers will ruin everything. Or really not even good marketers, just marketers in general will ruin everything. And that is because when they see something works, they're like, cool, let's do it. And so they'll all go jump on the bandwagon. And eventually it gets to a point, almost like the tip of a pendulum, where it just stops working. And then you have to go another way. So once again, kind of like a pendulum, you got to go the other direction. And so that's what's happening right now, is that we are like just starting to go towards this model where paid virtual events are freaking crushing it. And if you think, like, honestly, I want you to ask yourself this: can you honestly think of more than 5, maybe even 10 competitors in your space that are actively hosting paid virtual events? I would be very surprised if you could think of more than 5 or 10. And if you can, maybe this video is 4 or 5 years old now. I have no idea. But there are very, 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 very few people that have more than a handful of competitors in their space that are actively doing these paid virtual events. And so if that's the case, we can understand the pendulum is nowhere close to maxed out. So that means we all have to start going this way. And there will get to a point where they are just not working anymore. And then obviously, maybe we go back to call funnels. But right now, these paid virtual events are crushing it. And so this is honestly one of your absolute best times to take advantage of this. It really feels like going back to Facebook ads in 2017 when you could actually target people based on what credit cards they were holding and how much liquid assets they had in their bank accounts. Like, it feels like it's just a truly untapped opportunity. So, if you would like help doing one of these virtual events, I just want to give some context. They typically take about, at least for our clients, they take about 8 to 10 weeks to get running. Like, that is what we do. I'm Zach Hesterberg. I run paidevents.com. I also run paidbootcamps.com, paidchallenges.com. It's all the same once again. But yeah, we are on paidevents.com. Feel free, shameless plug, go to paidevents.com, check out what we're doing. Feel free, book a call with us if you'd like to learn a little bit more about it. But yeah, that is all what we do. Our entire focus is helping people plan and host virtual events that they can sell tickets to, that their ideal target customers will want to buy a ticket to. And then we even teach them, how do you actually take, maybe you've got a Zoom room of a couple hundred people, you go live for 2 days in a row. How do you really effectively and really efficiently convert as many of those people as possible into your high ticket offers? There's so many back end selling solutions. There's so many, stage selling secrets, stage selling psychology that you can go implement into presentations that will, quite honestly, make or potentially even break how your conversion rates go. But that's what we do. So if you would like our help with that, shameless plug, go to paidevents.com or feel free, check out the link in the description. And I'm sure we could have a link in the description for you. But here's what this looks like in reality if you're building these things out. We are not having people go host brand new events every month, okay? The way we do these is that ideally, you go host a virtual event. You see how it works, see how it converts, and you validate the model. And that should really take you, at least for our clients, it usually takes about 8 to 10 weeks from very start to they say, hey, yeah, I want to do this, to the first we always have you do market research. And then you do the build out. You have to, after you understand what your event's going to be called, then you have to actually write the ad copy. And obviously, AI can help you out with a lot of this. But you got to write the ad copy, all the emails, all the SMS, all the tech, etc. So you have the build out, and then you promote for the event for a few weeks, and then you host your event. And so once you validate this thing, and let's say you spent 10 grand and you make maybe 30 grand, maybe you make 50, or actually even most recently had a client, he just texted me, he spent 5 grand and he made $98,000. So I'm not promising or claiming that's going to be anyone's experience. I'm just saying that was his experience. So in his case, it's yeah, that clearly worked. Let's rehost it. And so now you don't have to redo market research. You don't have to redo the build out. Now you just change the dates on the sales page. You change up the automations, set up a new webinar. Once again, webinar being in Zoom webinar, you set up the tech so that way it could be rehosted. And then you can rehost it on a monthly basis. And this becomes a predictable customer acquisition system or a client acquisition system for you that you could use over the long haul. So we always say we like to repeat successful actions. We have a client, really most of our clients, the idea of working with us is, and building out one of these events, once again, whether you work with us or not, the idea of doing it is how do you get customers and clients on demand, and how do you do it predictably over the long haul? How do you make this sustainable? You don't ever want to go do a big launch and then not be able to, use that launch again. That's a lot of work for a very low return. Ideally, you're doing something, you're building out systems in your business that will continue to support your business month over month over month. And that's what most of our people do. Most of our clients do. Most of our clients do host these on a monthly basis, and they become the literal center point, the top of funnel, just acquisition system to always bring in new people into your pipeline. And the cool thing is, I didn't even mention this earlier, when you're selling tickets for these virtual events, obviously not everyone's going to show up, and not everyone's going to buy the back end offer in the back end. But think about it like this. All of the people that didn't show up, all the people that didn't buy the back end offer, they are paying customers of yours. So therefore, your email list, you're naturally going to have a higher open rate and a higher click-through rate on your emails and a higher engagement rate through all of your email marketing and even your SMS marketing. And so even whenever you go call someone on up, maybe you have a setter team or a salesperson on your team, and they want to go call someone on up in your CRM that maybe they bought a ticket to your event 6 months ago. Those people are much more likely to answer and much more likely to actually entertain a conversation with you because they were a paying customer of yours, not just a freebie seeking lead. So it really it's almost a ripple effect. It's an exponential way to continue to be able to grow a business, and especially if you're sitting in a situation right now where maybe even the trust recession itself is not really affecting you too much. If you're selling one-on-one is linear in nature. I would encourage you, think about, what's going to be the best way to exponentially grow your organization. And selling one-to-many is one of the best ways to do that, where your time or a salesperson's time is no longer the bottleneck to the organization. So that way you could give one presentation, and instead of having to do that one presentation 8 times in a row to get in front of 8 people, now you can give that one presentation to 800 people at the same time, and you're obviously going to have an exponential result on that. So really, that's what these can look like, and genuinely speaking, like they can exponentially grow and impact not just your business, but your message and so many other areas of your life. So anyway, that's pretty much all we have for today. Hopefully this was helpful for you. If you have any questions, feel free. Once again, go to paidevents.com. We'd love to chat. Other than that, we'll see you next time, and can't wait to see you on stage.